Hey folks, how's it going? So Microsoft just announced Magnetic One. Now a lot of people are calling this Magnetic One, but it's actually M-Agentic One, which I would guess stands for Microsoft Agentic Workflow, and this is like the first version of it, so this is M-Agentic One. Now this is a generalist multi-agent system that can solve complex tasks. Now essentially let's understand what is an AI agent. An AI agent that is a piece of code that can work with other pieces of code in order to solve the problem at hand. But a lot of these agents are, as of today, restricted by the permissions they have in the environment they run in. So for example, if you use Crew AI, while you can do all sorts of document loaders and so on and so forth, and thanks to Python for all of this, it still does not have the ability to do things independently. Plus, it is always restricted by the environment that it performs in. One of the recent update by Claude as well, where they introduced computer use, which was same essentially an agent that was taking screenshots of the screen and then taking actions based on what it sees on the screen. Now if you combine the Crew AI and computer use, that's what the M-Agentic One essentially is. That it basically not only has these workflows in order to work with other agents and do other things, but it also has the capabilities to look at the screen, what is going on, and take actions based on that. So here's an overview of how the entire framework works. So there's a task similar to what we see on the Crew AI, and then there's the orchestrator. Now orchestrator is like the main agent that will coordinate things across the board in order to get certain tasks done. So the task is handed over to the orchestrator. The orchestrator will do a bunch of different things. It can surf your files in order to look for certain things, like for example, access an image, extract code, and so on. It can surf the web, which is very important here, is that it can actually go to the URL and extract C++ code from the website. It can write code for you. Let's say you want to analyze images, then it can write Python code that can do that. It can analyze C++ code. So essentially there are two workflows here. The first workflow is where you have the file surfer that accesses your local file where it will use Python, and then there is the web surfer that will analyze the C++ code, which I think in this scenario is using C++ in general. And both of these then actually have the step where once you execute the command, all of these steps are done, and then finally once these steps are completed, the task is completed, which is similar to what most workflows do today. What is different is that most agents use Python. This one also has support for C++, which is I think very old programming language. Not a lot of people use it, but it's still very popular for scalability purposes. Because it's such a lightweight language, it allows people to scale their applications really, really fast. But like I said, it's not as used as Python as of today. Now, the core of this process is that there's the main orchestrator that is coordinating with 4 different agents, specialized agents that specialize in certain tasks in order to get things done. But if you go through the documentation, this is built on top of Autogen, which is Microsoft Agent Framework, similar to that of Crew AI. But this is obviously, like I said, a combination of Crew AI and computer use, which will not only allow LLMs to coordinate but also do certain things on the action. So it's almost similar to an LAM, which is a large action model in this scenario. If you read through the doc, Microsoft clearly states the future of AI is agentic, and AI systems are evolving from having conversations to getting things done. This is where we expect much of AI's value to shine. It's the difference between generative AI recommending dinner options to agentic assistants that can autonomously place your order and arrange delivery. So it's actually huge that it's basically looking at things like large action models in order to not only analyze things but also go ahead and do these things, right? So take actions in order to achieve those things. I think in my opinion it's very similar to computer use that we saw from Claude, which is obviously not as widely available right now, but they recently launched their desktop app, which will essentially enable us to get very close to it being available as a solution inside of the desktop app very, very soon. Modern AI agents capable of perceiving, reasoning, and acting on our behalf are demonstrating remarkable skills or performance in areas such as software engineering and so on and so forth. Still, to fully realize the long-held visions of agentic systems that can enhance our productivity and transform our lives, we need advances in generalist agentic systems. Now, what do you mean by generalist? It's essentially an agent that can fit multiple workflows, so it can write code, blogs, and so on and so forth. So that's what I think the goal of M-Agentic One essentially is. And I wouldn't be surprised if you take this workflow and put it in a robot, then it would also be able to act like a human, right? It would be able to converse with you like a human. and so on. One of the best part about this is that this is going to be open source for researchers and developers. And again, they kind of agree that it's still far from the human level performance. Now, a lot of companies claim that AGI will be available by 2025. Even Elon Musk says that it will be available by 2026. So, which is huge, especially for frameworks like these that can directly leverage the brains and the reasoning capabilities to make their framework even more stronger after AGI becomes mainstream. Also, one more thing that I kind of missed clarifying is that they're also releasing AutoGen Bench, an agentic evaluation tool with built-in controls for repetition and isolation to rigorously test agentic benchmarks and tasks while minimizing undesirable side effects. So this is huge because a lot of the new frameworks that came out, even like RAG, now there were certain frameworks like RAGAS that enabled you to evaluate the performance of the RAG system, but there was no one system in order to evaluate agents. And I think this is the beginning of that, the AutoGen Bench, which can essentially, gauge the performance of the agents in production. Either ways, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the videos that they've uploaded. These are not very long, but these are certain tasks that these agents have tried to achieve. So find and export missing citations of paper, describe trends in S&P 500, order a shawarma sandwich, and count number of members of MSRH. Right, so let's watch the first video. Seems like an interface where you would put the prompts and then the orchestrator builds the list of tasks, and then it's basically going through websites in order to get certain set of details. So my gut says that this is kind of playing in 2x because all of this generation would take quite some time. But either ways, we get an understanding of what it's doing, right? So it kind of made a bunch of different tasks that it needs to achieve. And then the orchestrator kind of coordinates that all of these tasks are done. And all of these, you can see we saw a screenshot of the archive where the papers are stored, and then that was used to find the citations and so on, right? So again, it's very similar to some of the frameworks that we saw very, very early in GenAI, like AutoGPT, which essentially created a list of different tasks and executed those tasks in order to achieve certain things. Now, this seems to be like a more advanced and, nuanced version of something like an AutoGPT, right? Either ways, this is more of a technical based research. Let's take a look at the research side of things, where you would do general stock based research, right? So again, it looks like it's building the plan, and then post the plan itself, it's using certain APIs and writing code in order to do certain things with the API itself. So looks pretty good, to be very, very honest. It was able to find the latest closing price, recent high price, and so on. Again, all of these things can also be built on top of Python, but the fact that it has an orchestrator kind of makes the whole flow or makes the whole process a little different. Now let's take a look at this interesting use case, which is more of a general use case for most people who might end up using an agent system like this. Order a shawarma sandwich. Cool. So it went ahead and, built up a list of plans, and then it's going to be looking at finding these shawarma stalls around the location. And it's almost like a human typing queries. Where can I find shawarma near me? And then, finding a hotel and then going to a place where you can actually order online, and then ordering you can see it's also navigating the menu here. Once it's able to find the menu, like I said, this is very similar to Claude Desktop. It's basically taking a screenshot and taking actions based on that. So it was able to get the image, navigate back to order online section, because it saw that the image that wasn't for shawarma per se. So it's now doing the whole thing again, and then it's basically just going ahead and adding more details with respect to the item itself. If you look at the end, it didn't necessarily order the item, but it found the item for you. And I think that's where the details where you need to put in your credit card and payments and so on and so forth will come in picture. But regardless, if that step is ignored, you can actually go ahead and order the sandwich. If you're already logged in on the platform, then this becomes very easy. Count number of members of MSRHAX. I'm not really sure. Microsoft Research, is that what it is? Let's go ahead and see what happens. Yeah, so this seems to be Microsoft Research. All right, so it was able to find some details on the web that it was able to then summarize for the user. So one of the things that I mentioned, that there's the orchestrator that kind of works with 4 different agents. Now these are the agents. There's the coder agent, computer terminal, web surfer, and file surfer. The orchestrator kind of works with all of these in order to achieve certain tasks. Then it will create the progress ledger and it will maintain it throughout the tasks, right? So basically there's the task, it creates the ledger, it creates the progress ledger, checks if the task is complete. If yes, it pushes it out of the workflow. If the work is still in progress, then it's going to, move back to task ledger and execute some other tasks and so on and so forth. And like I said, it works with multiple agents in order to achieve this. Now this on a very, very high level is the technical understanding of how this works. And for more details, you can actually read through this. So this is the lead agent, and then web server is proficient in commanding and managing state of the Chromium based web browser, which is essentially a way for us to programmatically browse the web. File server essentially looks at markdown based files, preview application to read local files and so on. And then there's the coder that writes code, and then there's the computer terminal that provides access to console shell and so on. Again, it's like I said, very similar to AutoGPT that came out last year. And all of these applications, and which is kind of interesting because even companies like Microsoft are kind of mimicking the workflow that a top agent or an agent like AutoGPT had, that was created by a single person, right? So very interesting. Now, either ways, if you look at the benchmark, here is the accuracy versus the human. So on specific benchmark, GAI, human scores around 90, more than 90, while the Magnetic One agent using GPT-4o scores around 40% or so on and so forth, right? And then you can see there are a bunch of different benchmarks here as well. And this is the state of the art. I believe the state of the art model that currently does this is way better than Magnetic One at this point of time, which will obviously improve over time. But either ways, I think this is very interesting development in the AI agent space, which has been evolving for quite some time now. It is weird to see that there's no AI agent by Google just yet. And Microsoft has released like a second variant of their own AI agent, which was initially AutoGen and now it's M-Agentic One. Kind of makes you think the direction that both of these companies are taking towards Gen AI in general. That's it for this video. Thank you so much, guys, and have a great rest of the day.